As I celebrate Appalachia here on my YouTube channel, one of my favorite things to talk about is the Appalachian language. It's so rich, so colorful, so vibrant. Of course, to me, it speaks of home because it's what I've grown up with, what I still speak today, what my loved ones, how they sound, all those sorts of things. It's just something that I'm plumb foolish about. I love hearing it, but I also love thinking about it and hearing different perspectives, because one of the interesting things about Appalachian language, and I'm sure with other language too, with other accents I should say too, is that it varies so much. It varies, of course, you think about from county to county or maybe state to state, but it even varies sometimes from holler to holler, as we would say. So in other words, from this side of the mountain to that side of the mountain. People have their own way of saying things. Certain words are popular here and maybe not popular in another place. Matt grew up, my husband Matt, about 3 counties away from me. There's many differences that we've noticed over the years, things that he said was very common in Haywood County where he grew up, and then things that are that I didn't know, and vice versa. He's noticed things now that he's lived here for many years, things that are very common in Cherokee County, Clay County, and not as common in Haywood County. So those are all little bits and pieces that make it really even more fascinating to me. I love thinking about how those words, even when they're said wrong, like we say many words wrong, when we call things by names that are not the correct name, all those things, I love that they get passed down from family to family and how it just hangs on, you know, how it continues. Now, a lot of people don't like that, and that's okay. Everybody has their own opinion, their own way of looking at things. You know, they would prefer that we all speak the same, you know, the same words, the same way that we sound, all those things. They would prefer that be the same. I'm not one of those people. I love all accents. Of course, my own, my cultures is my favorite, but I love all accents, whether it's from, you know, someone that grew up in Maine or California or in another country, or New York or wherever. I think they're all lovely, and I love how those, when you think about it, teaching a small, you know, when you first start teaching your children, or if you've been around children and they first start learning how to speak and they can barely say mama or daddy, that sometimes those are the first words, how they go from, like for instance, for my girls, how they went from dada, you know, something like that, to daddy, how we would say daddy, put that real accent. It's just amazing that we imitate each other like that, whoever teaches us to talk. Anyway, today what I'm going to talk about, the Appalachian language, is the kind of how we love to add an R onto words where it doesn't really belong. Probably one of the most common ones, and if you've watched my videos, you've definitely heard this one. I actually already said it in this video, now that I think about it, is holler. So I live in a mountain holler. What does that mean? It's actually hollow. It should be OW at the end instead of the ER. And that's kind of key in a lot of the ones I'll share. You'll notice that OW, many times we change that to an ER and put that R sound on the end. Another one that comes to mind, also adding an R, and that you've probably heard on my videos, I don't actually say it, but I know I've mentioned it several times, is wash. We'll put the R in wash, and there's an R that sneaks in there, wash. There's lots of them. Another one, this one's really interesting. There's several like this. Like I said, a lot of times that R, ER is added to the R sound, is added to the end of words that end in OW. So another one is winder. You'll hear somebody my age that remembers the roll down or roll up winders in cars might say roll the winder down, or put the winder down, or put it up. But that's one of those interesting ones that can be slightly different, because I don't actually say winder, I say window. I put a on the end of it, window. Put the windows up and let some fresh air in. So that one's really interesting, but that's one that you'll hear often. Speaking of wind, I have a stiff wind here today blowing through Brasstown. Another one kind of that you'll hear sometimes is, instead of banjo, banger. Do you play the banger? Nobody in my family, as musical as we are, plays the banger. I wish they did. Another one that you'll hear, I know you've heard this one on my videos, is instead of saying tomato, we say instead of saying tomato, we say mater. We just shorten it to mater, and it's got that ER. I have heard people, especially older folks, say tomater. They put the ER on the tomatoes. Did you grow any tomatoes this year? But we often just shorten that one to mater. In that same vein of thinking, potato is often just shortened to tater. Are you going to cook taters tonight? Are you going to have orange taters? Or are you going to have sweet taters? One other food one that I don't really say, but I've heard a lot of people, is nanner for banana. Maybe they're talking about nanner pudding, or would you put a nanner in my lunch? For all you fishermen or fisherwomen, that people that love to fish, have you heard people, instead of saying minnow, they say minner? So minner, they've got to get them some minners because they're going to go fishing. Or maybe there's some pretty little minners down there. You see them just swimming around in the creek. They're so pretty. Another one, this is one of those that I mentioned before, that you hear pillar. People sleep on a pillar, but that's another one that you'll hear. Some people say pillar, and other people say pilla. I say pilla. I sleep on a pillow, but I've heard pillar. People might say, you bring your own pillar when you go on vacation? Because I can't sleep on nothing if it ain't my pillar. It's funny, as you get older, at least for me and for Matt, we found out pillars or pilla, ever how you say it, it matters. It helps you sleep better. I used to be able to sleep on any pillar there was. It didn't matter. In fact, I had one that Granny made me. Oh, I think I had it even before I met Matt, so it was a long time ago. But I'd redone my bedroom, and she made me a new bedspread, and she just got foam and stuffed it in a pillar case. I say pillow is more common to me, and then sewed it up. And I slept on that pillar for, even after I was married. I brought it up here with me, and I slept on it till I couldn't sleep on it no more because it hurt. And then I had to start, me and Matt both had to start hunting around for a pillar or a pillow that actually supported our neck without hurting us. Katie says that for the last several months, she's been having those same problems, but she says, I'm not as old as you are. I shouldn't be having those problems with my pillar right now, but she is having them. Another one, idea. I can't, this one's hard for me because I can't even hardly say idea, because I say ideal. You've probably heard me if you watch my videos. I say I have a great ideal, or my ideal for this summer is, I put the L on the end of it. But a lot of people in my area, turn that into the ER, and they have an idea. So that one's interesting. Again, both in my little general area, you would hear me say ideal, but you might hear someone else say idea. Some more of those OWs, those are so popular for us for changing it, is widow. Like if there's a widow, we would say widder. So there's a widder woman. Widder Jones down the road, I'm really concerned about her. I need to stop by there and check on her. If your grandfather, your father, anybody grew tobacco as a crop when you were growing up, you might have heard it called backer, or maybe they chewed tobacco, so backer. If you got any backer, I need to chew. Willow turns into willer, so maybe you were someone that heard someone talking about finding willow, like the shoots or the kind of the smaller ones, and they were going to make a willow basket out of them, a willer basket. This next one's interesting. It's one of those, the OWs again, but one like pillow, where I say pillow, I say yella, but you will hear people say yeller, talking about the color yellow. So you might hear someone say, she had the prettiest yeller hair, or yeller's my favorite color, where I would say she had the prettiest yellow hair, and yella's my favorite color. So that's one of those that you'll hear the ER sound added on, or the A like I say it. This one I really like, but I hardly hear anybody say it. I did hear Pap say it though. Again, an OW for meadow, but he would say meader. So, down there where he lives, you turn in off the road by that little meadow there, and then you go on along the creek a ways, and then before you know it, you'll have seen his cabin sitting there, and you'll know where he lives. So meadow. This is another one. I said holler was probably the most common, but this one may be. So instead of fellow, feller, put the ER on it. I'm glad that Corey got her a good feller. Austin, we couldn't have asked for a better son-in-law, so I'm really thankful that Corey got her a good feller. This one's one that makes me smile. So it's bellow, like a cow, cow or other animals too. I guess you think about them bellowing. But we would switch that OW again to ER, so we would say they were bellering. Who's that bellering out there? Maybe you might say, she was just bellering, that woman was, going on and on about all her troubles, and she just wouldn't hush about it. She was bellering. Sometimes somebody might beller at you if they're mad at you. This next one, I don't say, but Pap and Granny both said it, so it reminds me of them, is mellow, with the OW again, but they would say meller. So they loved for their apples to be meller. Well, what did that mean? Well, to them, that meant their apples were soft. They wanted them soft, meller. I can't stand apples like that. I eat an apple pretty much every day of the world, but I do not want mine to be meller. Kind of the same vein as that, marshmallow. If you like marshmallows, maybe you like s'mores and you like to make put some marshmallows on them, or maybe you just like to roast them over the campfire. Taller, that's another tallow, would be taller. Shatter, the shatters are, there's a shatter on your face or something, or either the wind's blowed your hair across your face. That's probably what's happening to me right now. Shatter for shadow. This one's really common too, follow. This morning I had to follow Katie somewhere. We would put the ER, so I'll follow you to town. You get in and I'll follow you in case since your car's not acting right, your vehicle might tear up between here and town, so I'll follow you and make sure it's okay. Shallow for shallow water. So down the road there, the water's real shallow, and I just pulled up my breechy legs and I was able to wade right across. There's also, then sometimes we do that same thing, we change the ER on the end of people's names. So a few that come to mind is Ida, would be Ider. Ina, I had a sweet great aunt Ina, precious woman. Einer, nobody called her Einer that I'm aware of, but that is common. Sometimes even Wanda turns into Wander. Eva, Ever. Della, Deller. Emma, Emmer. Velma, Velmer, Velma. I don't know which one I said that. Velma, Velmer. Delma, Delmer. Dinah would be Diner. Even Donna sometimes turns into Donner. Ella, Eller. And Edna, Edner. I have a great video about names. I will link to that if you've not seen it. Kind of talking about the ones we change like that and some other ways that we change them, like Sari instead of just Sarah, but also just unusual names. And if I was someone that was going to have children and have more children and needed to look for a name, I would go there. Not just the ones I share in the video, but if you look through the comments, there's some of the most unusual, meaningful names that people have left from their families. It's really fascinating to read them, so I'll link to that. In addition to the names, there's even times that we change we even use that to change the places. Like I've heard people say, talking about where I live, Atlanta is about 2 hours from where I live. And people would say Atlanta. I got to go down to Atlanta to the doctor. I'm going down there to the doctor at Atlanta. Of course, you probably heard people say Washington. Again, go back to the one we started with, Washington instead of Washington. Even China, I've heard people say instead of China, China. And I'm sure there's more of them. And the R usage, like I've shared, it's certainly on the decline, of course. I even shared some that Pap and Granny said that I don't say, even their next generation. And they'll be the ones that I say that my children don't say. So it's definitely on the decline. But I would say that's still one of the ways that you could commonly recognize people in their accent. If you were in a regular conversation with them, I think that R usage would jump out at you. You might think, well, what did they say? Why are they saying Atlanta? Or maybe why are they saying Warsh? Or what does holler mean? Does she mean yell at her? Or where does she live where somebody yells? All those things. So I think you would still recognize that as being different. I know I left out a lot though, so I hope if you're familiar with this usage that you'll share any that come to mind for you. And as always, I hope you'll drop back by often to help me celebrate Appalachia. A whole lot of it that I like to talk about is the wonderful way that we speak. I just think it's so rich and colorful.